Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're checking out my 40-gallon fish tank. Now the last time we visited this tank, I was a little concerned about the plants. The Java Fern was dying off and the Vallisneria had a lot of holes in it. Now my explanation for that at the time was the Java moss was grown to that size out of this tank. I moved it into this tank, put it on that piece of wood, and it was doing okay for a while until I introduced the Vallisneria. Now my reasoning was the Java Fern is a slow growing plant that uses a lot of potassium. The Vallisneria is a fast growing plant that uses a lot of potassium. So the two were competing. It's kind of inevitable that you're going to have some dieback. I mean, if the Vallisneria is growing that fast, the Java Fern just won't be able to keep up. So I've been trying to save it. I've been doing a lot of water changes. Been doing about like one a week, and I've been dosing fertilizers after to keep my nitrates within like 20 to 40 parts per million. So I've been working on it. The Java Fern is dying back. I'm losing leaves left and right, but I'm noticing new growth. So I think that's gonna be the key to it. I don't think it will completely die back, but I think I'll lose the bigger leaves and it will grow back smaller. The Vallisneria will continue to grow as more and more of the Java Fern dies back. So that's good. I'm happy with the way that the tank is progressing. I'm getting all kind of little runners of this crypt here. It's just kind of amazing. I was just marveling at this guy today. It's grown to be quite a beefy little crypt there. And yeah, the tank overall is doing good. I'm really happy with the progress. And the shrimp are breeding like crazy. It's like every time I look at this tank, I'm seeing a new pregnant mama. I got tons of babies all over the place. They're doing great. With the plant growth taking off and all these baby shrimp in the tank, I've been feeding more. The fish like it, and I've noticed, I'm having a little bit of a snail problem. The snails are kind of on the back glass there, as you can see, the little white specks. I have some other snails down here at the bottom, doing their thing. And I've had all this moss growing on the wood for some time now. It's really starting to spread. I was kind of concerned about that hair algae at one point, but I kind of plucked it off. I kept picking at it, and surely enough, it's just getting out competed. It can't keep up with all the other plant growth, so it's dying back. It's still there. I can still see a little bit of fuzzies, but it's not as bad as it was, and it's not taking hold of the tank, so that's good. Hopefully I can keep it that way. Maybe I should trim the moss a little bit too. I know moss likes to be trimmed. If I trim it back, maybe that'll stimulate some new growth and have it grow down the wood instead of out of the wood. Well, that's not to say this tank is perfect. I've been trying to be kind of hands-off with it, and it's working to an extent, but I think I will maybe change some things up before the next time you see this tank. For one, I have this plant back here in the corner, and if you look at it, it looks good at first, and then you start to notice some of the leaves are dying back. So maybe if I move that out of the corner and move it over here, right underneath, that way it gets some light, it'll block the Vallisneria from growing straight up against the glass. I can move that back a little bit more, and then there's another plant hidden behind there I could pull forward a little bit just so you can see it right in that gap. So I don't know, overall I'm happy with the tank. It's doing good. I do not really like how much of the tank is just a black background. At this point, I don't know what else I could do to build up the background at this point, aside from pulling everything out, gutting it, and just totally rescaping it. But this tank has been set up for a long time, and I've messed around with it a lot, so maybe one day we'll totally do a refresh. But I got enough refreshes coming up in the woodworks here, so we'll just leave this for now. I'll try and reposition some of the plants, and that way we don't lose any of them. And these tall growing plants here, these little weed looking things, I may trim them and replant them, because I've noticed like now they're starting to grow towards the top and they're kind of covering a lot of the light, and that's fine. And I noticed something new about it. I've always just trimmed them so quickly when they reach the top of the tank, but if you let them grow towards the top of the stalks, they grow way more leaves. And it's kind of crazy to see how that happens. Like towards the bottom, you can see there's not that many. You have a few little stalks shooting out, but not as many as at the top. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I've never let them go long enough to notice that before. Usually I just cut and replant. So I may do some trimming of those, kind of plant them back into the substrate, just shift some of the plants around a little bit, and by the time you guys see the tank next time, it'll look pretty different. So we'll see how it goes.